What's up, everybody? She's already giggling. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to 90-Minute Cocktail Hour. I'm Mike Guccione. I am your host. I am the owner of Driftwood and Dune Co. Photography. Um, this is episode 6, and I've been like super pumped about the feedback I've been getting. The shout outs the podcast has been getting. And I'm actually really, really pumped for the May lineup. Obviously, today we're starting off with Kasey photography. So super pumped about that. Also have some like really cool guests lined up for, later in the month. I'm going to be interviewing my first DJ next week. Stay tuned for that. And then a couple other like videographers that I work with, and then well, I'm not exactly sure how to tease this yet, but so I won't go down that route. But if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you subscribe. Rate and review us. That'll definitely help bring this to a wider audience. So, I don't really know what my long-term... Actually, I have some long-term goals for the podcast. I shouldn't say that. But, right now I feel like there's a nice little New Jersey niche that I've been hitting. I've seen a lot of the same faces, like, sharing that they're listening to the podcast, and I love that. Let's keep it going. And, keep on having fun, talking about weddings, talking about photography, talking about creativity. So... As I said today, we have Jordyn Kasey. I actually work on Jordyn's team. I'm one of her associate photographers, second shooters, and I've been working with her for like probably 2 years now. I've loved working on her team, loved meeting everyone on her team. She's got a really cool, fun group of people. We've become friends over the last couple of years, obviously between like photography and like our, overlap in our personal lives. We've kind of run the gamut of like things that we've talked about. So, hopefully we can get into it a little bit here today. But, Jordyn, I just want to like throw it to you and just do like a little, little quick intro and we'll get it going.
All right. Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I'm so excited. Podcasts are my jam. So this is like, I'm just so excited. I can't wait. But yeah, I'm Jordyn Kasey. I've been a wedding photographer for 7 years. It's been a crazy ride, but it's the best job ever. I'm a new mom. My son just turned 1, and that's life. That's life. Mom life and work life. That's exactly what it
is. This is actually your second podcast of the week, huh?
Second podcast of the week. I'm taking whoever wants me, take me. I'm here for it. I'm like, this is so fun. I feel like first of all, if you know me, I like could talk forever. So this is the perfect job for me. I feel like I'm like, do I have another talent? I don't know. Like, should I do something else?
I mean, that could be a little side hustle for sure. I could see that for you. I could see that for you.
Like a permanent guest. That sounds so great.
That actually, you know what? I've thought about that. I was like, if I were going to have a co-host, like who would I have on? Or like who would I want to come back as like a recurring person? So I don't know. We'll see how today goes. Don't fuck it up, okay?
I won't. I'm nervous enough, okay? It's fine.
But yeah, so you did Steph from Pro Styled's podcast earlier this week. Shout out Pro Style Bride.
And Angel. A lot of our couples use her. We love her. Oh my God, yeah. Her podcast was she's just the funniest person, and I feel like she's got some good makeup artists that are coming on that have already been on. Like she's great. So if you're looking for like girly vibes, she's your girl. She's the best.
Cool. Love that. So whenever that drops, be sure to check that out. So now we're doing this, and I've said this, I think, on like just about every episode. I only really have people prepare for one question, and that question is like, what was the path that like led you into wedding photography? What were I'm curious about like the twists and turns and the decisions and the like the twists in your life that kind of led you there. So,
Okay.
that's really the only thing I have people prepare for, and then like wherever we go, we go. So, yeah, Jordan, why don't we like kind of start there? Like, what
Okay.
where were you like, end of high school? Like, what were you thinking about? Like, was photography even on the radar for you yet?
Um, yeah, I feel like I definitely had a lot of twists and turns to get here, but it was like quick twists and turns. Like everything happened so fast. My senior year of high school, I decided to go to Stockton. That was like 15 minutes away from me at the time. It was like the most ideal scenario, but I was going to be a theater major. I wanted to be a theater teacher. That was my goal. I don't even know if we've ever talked about this.
No,
Okay,
this is
so
news.
I was originally a theater major at Stockton. I was taking like a lot of theater education classes. Like that was my vibe. That was what I wanted. I really loved it in high school and growing up, and I was really heavy into it. Like the last couple years of my high school, and I just was like, I would love to direct and teach this, and that was what I thought I wanted to do. So I went in to be a theater
Wait,
teacher,
so
and
can I
then
pause you for a second? So, were you in like productions in high school?
I was, and more like more competitions. Like we did a lot of like theater competitions. There was always like a big one at Montclair every year,
What's
and
what's a theater competition?
it's like you're gonna embarrass the shit out of me. It's like it's basically you do like there's different categories like dramatic, comedic, whether it's like a solo or you're in groupings or a pair, like monologue stuff like that. And so you basically like work on this whole scene, and then you go and you compete and you perform the scene in front of like all these different judges, and then you win first, second, third, whatever.
Wow, I had no idea these even existed. This is
I
like,
know,
I feel
it's
like
crazy.
this is like a whole like pitch perfect subculture that like
No, literally,
needs to be
yeah.
brought into the like the mainstream. Okay, all right, tell me more.
It was amazing. It was like that was what I thrived for at the time. Like that was my everything, and I thought like I could continue on with this and be a teacher and bring these kids to these competitions, and that's what I thought I wanted to do. And then I started realizing maybe I don't want to be a teacher because I just was like, I don't know if that's for me, whatever. I just felt like a little bit bored and like I wanted to do something else because I had, done theater, and I just was like wanting to change it up and do something different. So I actually had withdrew from Stockton, went to be a x-ray tech. I was going to x-ray tech school, talk about like total switch, and was like, I don't know. I don't think I like this. I can't do anatomy and physiology. Hell no. Like, that was just like, get me out. I can't do this. I was going through like a crisis because I was like, what the hell am I going to do with my life? I'm the oldest, so, and my mom's a teacher, my dad's a police officer, so it was like very strict, like, you're going to college. I need to set an example for my younger siblings. But college just wasn't for me. Like high school was for me. I loved it. College, like I didn't want to go every single day. It just was not for me. Then I thought I would try Stockton again. My best friend was living there, so I decided to live there as well, which is so dumb because I live 15 minutes away from Stockton. But I did it, and I did like it. I think like the feeling of being away but not really away was definitely better. I was going for photography and hospitality, so I was kind of learning like business and taking some photo classes. And then I met my now husband, Tyler, and I didn't want to go to school. I was like, I would rather be with Tyler. We're 7 years apart, and that has been like crucial in my business being successful and just, like finding what I want. Like I feel like the support and just like the will to keep going because he was older than me and was smarter and wiser and was just able to give me so much advice that is just has just played like such a crucial part in everything. So I decided I hate school and I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna just start working for photography companies. I was learning more, outside of the classroom than I was inside the classroom. It just all seemed kind of ridiculous. So I withdrew again and I just started working for photography companies. I feel like I landed on photography because it was just something that I had. Like I had always kind of loved it, but I never thought I could do something with it. Like this, what we're doing now is something out of my wildest dream. Like I never thought that this community was out there and that weddings was, you know, as big as they are. And I just never thought that it was like something I could do for the rest of my life or for a significant amount of time in my life. And then honestly, like when I say the rest is history, like that's true. I got my business license. I started working for different companies, learning as much as I possibly could. And then I started my own company and really pushed to, you know, find my niche and find what I loved. And I would be doing cake smashes in the morning and family photos at night, or, you know, like professional headshots by day, newborns like in the afternoon, and then rushing over to an engagement session, like just really trying to find like what I liked. And then we landed on weddings and I haven't looked back.
Yes. I feel like weddings, and I don't mean this in like a bad way, but weddings are kind of like the dark side. Like, it's
Oh yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
welcome to the dark side.
And like you dip your foot in there and you're stuck. Like you're like,
Yeah.
this is where I'm meant to thrive. And
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
not.
Exactly. Um, but so circling back to, there's a couple things you said in there that I want to come back to, but the first one is, um, like, you know, feeling that pressure to like pursue higher education.
Yeah.
Like, do you, so like, what do you think about that? Do you think that like, I mean, obviously, you know, the proof is in the pudding, right? Like, you're wildly successful as a
Yeah.
wedding photographer, like without a college degree. Like, you know, what do you think that like, I don't know. I'll just speak from my own experience, right? Like,
Mhm.
I got a college degree. I felt a lot of, you know, pressure, not even from like peers. It was really more pressure that I put on myself, like from,
Yeah.
you know, what I
Right.
thought society expected of me, what I thought my parents expected of me, what I thought my friends expected of me.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, it's arguable that I could be doing that what I'm doing now without that degree. So
No,
I don't.
I agree. I think that yes, like there is this weight on your shoulders, there's all of this pressure, and it can feel, you know, it was the one of like the most overwhelming and lowest points in my life because I just was like, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I, you know, I had this like immense amount of pressure. Like my parents had never been through, you know, having a kid in college at the point, and they were just like very into the education. You need to get a degree, you need to get a degree. And then I feel like they just kind of realized that it really wasn't for me. And I honestly, to go back a little bit, I really didn't even like the third time that I decided to stop, I really didn't even like stop. I was more like failing out because I just did not want to go and I never went.
Mm,
And I was like, this is just not for me. Like, I would only show up to my one photography class that semester, and that was it. And I was like, this is all just nonsense to me. But I will say this to anybody. A lot of people, a lot of younger people will talk to me about this. If you have a plan, then by all means give it a go. But if you don't have a plan, then that's where it gets a little bit tricky. Like I knew I really love photography. How can I make this work? I went on to Indeed.com in my dorm room at like midnight at one of my lowest points. Like, what can I do? Are there even jobs for this type of like, you know, are there photography jobs? Like, what can I do for this? And I started trying to see like what was even out there. And I applied to Bella Baby, which is all of like the New Jersey hospitals doing newborns. And I was like, they hired me pretty much immediately. I knew nothing. I had like a Canon Rebel T3i, and it was like, you know, on camera flash, didn't know how to do manual mode, like, didn't know anything.
yeah, the little flash
And
that like pops up, like ping.
yeah, like that little like pop up flash. And it's like, oh, I'm here, by the way. But it was just crazy. Like, just so much pressure. And it was like, and still, like, there's not a day that goes by where I'm like, I need to keep going. And how can I keep going? Because I have nothing to fall back on. And I feel like that has just driven me, like, up and up and up because I really don't have anything to fall
Mm.
back on. And it's like,
I
if I fail, I need to go back to school and find something completely new because what else can I do at this point?
well, I mean, I want to circle back to that in a second, but one thing you said before, um, like if there's a plan, right? Like, and I was in the same boat. Like,
Mhm.
I had no plan. Like I went to a very expensive school and spent, my
Yeah.
entire freshman year undecided. So like,
Right.
you don't need to spend $40,000 to be undecided.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
if I had to do things over again, like I would do things very, very differently.
Yeah.
And not that like going to, higher like a college or an institution would have been a bad thing at that time, but
Mhm.
it didn't have to be like go move to another state, go move to another city, um, and like uproot your life to like try out a bunch of things. I mean, I think there's like, it sounds like I regret it, and in I don't regret the experience. Like I don't regret the things that I learned.
Mhm.
But I think it's a little bit of like hindsight is 2020. Like if I had the opportunity to do things a little bit differently, I probably could have done it a little bit more.
Right.
I could have done it smarter.
Right.
But the other thing you said about like having nothing to fall back on, I understand like why people say that, but I also think, like people like yourself who've gotten to this point in business, um, are have to be very resourceful. So
Mhm.
like if it wasn't this, it would be something else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you would find a way. Like we all would
Right.
find a way to like
Right.
make it work. And I think, and again, I'll speak for myself. The reason that I continue to stay in this industry and continue to work with the people that I work with is because I also never thought that I would find this community, right? Like, and I was like craving that community. I was craving like these people
Yes. Yep.
that, I just wanted people who I felt like were on the same wavelength as me. And, um, I finally found it took some time for me to like find the people within the industry that I like really gravitate to.
Right.
Um, but I also didn't think it was possible to like not have to work like a 9 to 5,
Yeah.
or to like,
I
be able to have the flexibility to, and not that it's not insane, but like, I have 3 kids and I'm home with them and I get to spend a lot of time with them and I still get to like do the thing that I love to do. So, and again, it's like crazy and chaotic at times. And we were talking about this, we were texting before, like, this is going to be an interesting episode because we're both like super sleep deprived and, you
Yep.
know, like, you have to find time to like get stuff done and it can be really challenging. But like, I wouldn't trade this for, having that routine of, having to go to work for 40 to 60 hours a week somewhere else
Like
and then having to
that
squeeze
is
in my
not
life around that.
not for me. I think that's why I was like, I don't want to go to college anymore because I don't want to end up in a job that like, and I just don't want a 9 to 5. Like, I don't think I thrive in that environment. Like, this is more my speed, but it's not easy. Like, you're making your own schedule, and like when you have kids, that could mean either working from like 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. Like there's really like there's stuff that sucks, and I think when when I became a mom, I found the stuff that sucks. So it was like, it's hard. It comes with pros and it comes with cons. It's like sometimes it's really really awesome, and then sometimes it's really not. But I knew that having a family was very important to me. I feel like I growing up like hated being around kids. Like I just never thought I would be a mom. Like I just really never wanted kids. And I think it's because I'm the oldest of like everyone. Oldest cousin, oldest sibling. I grew up with so many like kids younger than me. I just was like, I don't think I like will be a
Mhm.
mom. Like that was just something I never saw for myself. And then
Wait, so
I'm
can I pause you for a second there? So, how was the dynamic between you and like your brother and sister growing up? Did you
Oh, we
like?
had a great dynamic. We're all very, very close. I mean, my sister and I are like 7.5 years apart, and that's a little bit tough. Like, we always were like in two different areas, and we still are. Like, we're just always so different. And growing up was rough, like having a sister, but she's so far younger than me that I feel like our issues were always like never like, oh, she's stealing my clothes. Like, that never really happened. It was more like my sister was being dragged to like everything
Mm,
because she had no choice. And just always wanting to be with like with my me and my friends, like the little annoying sister.
Mm.
My brother and I are very close. We've always been very close. But like now, and we're all so close, and I'm very fortunate, and they're amazing. But I feel like, yeah, I just was like, you guys did it for me. I'm good. And then
Mm.
I have like 8 cousins. So I'm like,
So the reason I ask this is because I feel so. My oldest son, he just turned 7, and I feel like and maybe it's a boy thing. I'm not sure, but I have boy, girl. So the two older ones are the boys, and like they get along for the most part. But there's some times where they're just like at each other's throats, and I'm like, like I didn't have a brother. I have a younger sister, and our dynamic was very, very different. And like the two of them, man, sometimes like, oh my god, like, are they gonna be okay?
I
I'm
know. Boys are a whole different level. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
like I don't know. I'm sure they're gonna be fine, and I'm hoping it's gonna be one of those things where, like, you hear in speeches at weddings
Yes.
sometimes,
Yep.
like, and I think about this with my kids, especially when I'm like listening to speeches or when I see like the father daughter dance or the mother son dance. Like,
Hmm.
um, I don't get choked up at much at weddings, but like, watching. So, I have a love hate with the mother son father daughter thing. I really
Yeah.
do, but there's some times where I'm like, oh, this is really authentic. This is really genuine, and I see
Hmm.
like the mother
I
son
know
dance,
what
and I'm
you mean.
like, oh my god, like my wife is gonna be dancing with Luke at his wedding. Oh my god.
Oh, I actually do get choked up. There is really not one wedding that has gone by where like at some point like I'm not getting choked up. Like I'm a very emotional person and I feel like I always try to like hide it because I'm like, oh my God, if someone sees me with glossy eyes right now, this is so embarrassing. Like they're gonna be like, you photographed hundreds of weddings, get it together. Like I would be so embarrassed. So I'm always trying so hard to like not let anyone know. But there are a few moments that really get me compared to like other moments. But ever since I had Easton, there's not a mother son dance that doesn't choke me up. Like
Mm.
that really gets me. And like some of the songs too, like they'll kind of get me as many times as we hear them. But like, yeah, like until I met Tyler, that was really something I just never thought of. And then you work so hard for something, and now every single time I see it, I just like cry. It's insane.
Mhm.
It's like I need to
Mhm.
get it together. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, like time goes by so fast. Like it's crazy.
So, all right. So, if Jordan now could talk to like Jordan, when she was like first starting her business, you've been working for some studios for a little bit, you have some experience. Um, like, were you happy with the way that you did things early on, or like, what would you like? How would you
Yeah,
maybe
I
do
mean,
things differently?
I really don't think I would change anything. I think I'm a very independent and direct and headstrong person, and I feel like that's how I was acting like during that time, and I think I would go back and just say like keep going. But honestly, like there was never a point where I thought I wasn't going to keep going. Like I knew that this was something that I was meant to be doing. And I had my first job was with Bella Baby, and my mentor taught me everything I knew. Like if it wasn't for her, I would know nothing. I wouldn't even know that manual mode was a thing. I wouldn't know what an f-stop was. Shout out to her because she taught me everything I know, and I think about her so often. Like I'm so grateful for that experience. But that really taught me everything. And then I worked for them for a couple years. I started working for another wedding photography because in between that time, someone I went to high school with had asked me to photograph her wedding, and I was like, are you joking? I photograph babies who don't know how to talk, and no one talks back to me. And now I have to go photograph this wedding day with like opinions and brides, and like what am I like? I don't know anything about that. And I was freaking out. And I said yes. And I remember her coming in to what we did like a meeting. And I remember her coming into the meeting being like, okay, my budget is 350. I was like, cool. Like you didn't even have to pay me. I just am like, is this something that I should really be doing? Like I remember being like, are you sure that you want me to be doing this? Because like fresh 48 photography and wedding photography are two completely different things. And I like don't even think I owned a flash. I like didn't own anything because Bella provided the cameras for you. So like I only had like my little tiny cameras, and I was like, okay, cool. I guess I could make this work. And it was one of those things that instantly clicked, and I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Like I am meant to be a wedding photographer and directing and being in charge and being in control of the day. Like that's where I'm meant to be. And I found another wedding photography company. I started working with them as a second shooter, working my way up to a lead shooter, really just kind of taking it all in and learning, timelines and how the day goes and, first look and how to handle certain scenarios. And I really learned as much as I could. And then COVID year came and I stopped working for both companies. I mean, Bella was kind of forced out at that point. We weren't allowed in the hospital. So that kind of like made my decision for me that it was time to stop working at Bella and really go deeper with my business. At the time I was doing like a lot of like family portraits, cake smashes, really like all mainly like that stuff, maternity sessions, like extended family. And I was like, this is not my vibe. Like chasing around a 5-year-old, screaming, singing, wheels on the bus. Like, nope, not me. Props to any freaking family photographer. I genuinely don't know how you do it because like I just can't. Or even like seeing when we just did the baby's cake smash photos. Oh my God, the patience. Like I can't do that. And I was like, nope, weddings. That's where I
Do you
thrive.
find family sessions easier now though? Now that you have a kid?
No, I won't. I don't do them. I won't. Nope. It's just not for me.
That's fair. You know yourself. I mean,
Yep.
kind of along those lines, like I will never do. Not that I won't say never, but I up to this point in my career have refused to do like posed newborn,
Oh.
studio newborn
Mhm.
portraits. Like I'll do like an in-home like lifestyle session,
Mhm.
um, where it's like a little bit more free flowing and it's a little
Right.
bit more like loosey goosey. But yeah, no, like
Nope.
a mutual friend of ours, shout out Nikki from what is she now? She's Sweet Pea
Oh,
Photography.
yes.
Yes,
Love it.
she actually did newborn portraits for summer, and like watching the process, I was like, dear Lord, this is insane.
Dude,
And
I know. When we did the baby's pictures, but that's how Bella baby was. Like they were very posed, but it was in a hospital room, so how much can you really do? But it was very like on a white sheet, very posed, very like propped up, like very, staged newborn. And I couldn't really recreate that outside of the hospital. Like that was just never really my vibe. Like I was trying to do more of like the lifestyle, and I did a lot of the lifestyle newborns like while I was working for Bella, but I just was like, this is a whole nother ball game. And then one of the girls that worked for me or worked with me at Bella ended up working for me for a little while, like my first year that I was in weddings. Her name's Jess. She's become like one of my really good friends, and she did Easton's photos, and like, oh my gosh, just the patience, the backdrops, the props, like seeing all of that stuff. I'm like, that is insane. But it's also like a lot of those photographers are like, how are you doing weddings? How are you handling brides?
mm,
How can you handle family? Like I can't do that. So I feel like it's like a divide. It's like you can handle one and you can't really handle the other. And that's just because that's where you're meant to be and you're not meant to do the other one.
yeah, I guess both of them are. I mean, at their core, they're kind of like about what you can control, right? And
Yeah.
you know, I've talked about this on previous episodes. Like wedding, you know, being the lead shooter on a wedding day is a very interesting kind of control that you have over the
Hmm.
day. And like obviously there are things that you can't control, and there's things that are out of our hands. But um, the decisions that we make before the wedding, as far as like putting together the timeline, and putting together like who needs to be there when, like those are like pretty big influences, over the
Yeah.
day. So, and then like trying to command bridal parties and
Yeah. That's
family
a tough job.
and dealing with like family dynamics. I mean, um, like that's all challenging, but like I guess it comes down to like what would you, and honestly, like I don't mind doing family sessions these days. I actually kind of enjoy them, and because my house is like chaos and insanity all the
Right.
time. So
Right.
it's funny when parents get like self-conscious about their kids being a little wild during family sessions. I'm like, dude, you're good. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
I
know,
feel like I'm entering that stage of life pretty
yeah,
quickly.
the
So I think
boys will bring it out in you. Yeah.
yeah, I
Like,
was gonna say, I feel like I might be like, head back into that direction maybe in a little bit. We'll see. But I don't know. I just was like, this is not for me. And so COVID just really changed things for me. I spent so much time just learning and trying to do everything I can, and like as self-taught as they come, and like taking the knowledge I had learned at Bella, and how to apply that. And I stopped working for the wedding company that I was working for. I just realized like I want to be working for myself at that point, and I had all of the tools and the knowledge that I needed to do that. So I just started really heavily like marketing and weddings for JKP, and we just kept going and going, and it's like grown into something that I never thought it would. Like that was always my goal. Like what we're doing right now was my goal, because I had worked for a company that was like that, and I knew that like that's what I wanted, and I just wanted it to be different. And I knew like I wanted to be like in control of everything, and really trying to like customize our brand and find the niche and just find like where we thrive at, like like the region of venues, and just really trying to get to that point. And now like I'm like Steph had said to me the other day, she was like, what is next for you as a team? And I was like, honestly, I'm good where we are. Like this is exactly what I wanted and where I wanted to be, and we're just gonna keep doing us like this, because this is like, this is the goal. And when you're there, you're there, and it's just like it's crazy to see. Like every wedding that goes by, I'm like, how are we even here? Like, how is your wedding even, like, how has it come and gone? And how has, the time of me becoming your friend is now over, and that's sad. And we try to keep it going throughout, different stages of life, but it's crazy. It's one of the most rewarding jobs.
yeah. So, and I know this is like, it's a little bit of a cliche, not a cliche, but like, I feel like the point has kind of been like hammered home. Like COVID was such a turning point for so many people and was like a
Mm-hmm.
motivator, for a lot of people to like make pretty big changes in, in their life. And that was like certainly true for me. I mean, the wheels were already in motion for me. Like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
was still working like a part-time, retail job. And I think in like February, maybe January or February, I had kind of like made a plan to leave that so that I could do photography full time, and I had like lined up, a bunch of dates with a bunch of different studios, to kind of like carry me through that time, and
Mhm.
and then obviously like everything kind of shut down, and but I had like the decision had already been made, but COVID definitely like in a
It
weird
pushed
way.
you, gave you the shove that you needed, because you really had no.
Yeah, and also like what wound up happening as a result of that was because there were so many reschedules, there was this like this rebound effect of an insane number of weddings in 2021 and
Yes.
2022.
Yes.
So, there were, I don't know if that's when we linked up, but like there were just all these studios that needed shooters, and
Hmm.
I made so many connections during that time because of the surplus of weddings, and some of the connections, like some of the studios that I shoot for today, were like as a direct result of literally someone needing a shooter last minute,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you know being able to fill in and show, obviously like it went well and they like my work, so they continued to like give me dates. So
Hmm.
um in a very strange way, like that all worked out like pretty well for me. And Krista was talking about that on the last episode. Shout out Krista. Um, that for her, like because of all those reschedules and things getting upended, people were like, "I need a planner," and
Right.
you know,
Yeah. And I
so
think
like
listening to a lot of your episodes have made me realize that COVID was a pivotal point for so many wedding vendors. And it's crazy because, a lot of those vendors are vendors that are thriving because they put everything into it and they really realized like I'm going to make this work. Like there's a demand out there and I'm going to do it and I'm going to pick it up and we have to keep going. And that was like what Krista said, like people need wedding planners and so here she is. So it's like, you kind of have to do that. And you saying photographers needing shooters and now it's become like you work, with them all the time. It's just kind of, it's crazy how things just work out.
Yeah. So I I think we maybe linked up we'd had like a little bit of contact over like Instagram, I think in like, 2021, 2022. So like I
No,
knew
wait,
of you.
time out. Wrong. Ready? I'm going to tell you right now because it was 2 years ago. This past weekend was the first wedding that you ever worked with me on. And I remember that because I had woken up and my second shooter bailed and I was losing my damn mind. And we had been talking like
Oh,
a few
you're
before
right.
that. Yeah. And we had like been talking a few weeks before that about how you were gonna start shooting for me and I was like, oh my god, yay. But then this happened and I was freaking the fuck out. And I remember texting you like, any chance you can save my ass today? And you were so funny because you were like, oh, wait, hold on, like, let me just go check with my wife and my kids. And then literally 30 seconds later, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm good. I'll see you in a few hours. Like, so just on a whim, you were like, hold on, wait, let me check. Okay, no, I'm not busy. I'll be there. And I feel like that has stuck like throughout the last 2 years where you're like, I know I can always rely on you, but you're so like you're just so funny the way you handle everything. And so 2 years ago, like this past week, it was Steph and Jordan's wedding at Renault. I don't know, I'm crazy,
That's
but I
right.
remember
It
that's
was May.
exactly.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was May 5th. I remember because it was like Cinco de Mayo.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that wedding. That was a really fun wedding. But two things. I remember that. I remember getting that text message, and obviously, like I always run everything, by the wifey first because
Yep.
if I'm gone, like she's there all day with the kiddos.
Right. Of course.
And so summer was not even one yet at that point. And so I asked. I probably put down the phone and like she was probably sitting right next to me, and I was just like, "Hey, are you cool if I leave for the day?"
You were like, let me just act like I'm busy and then make it seem like I can't. And then you were like, I'll be there. Send me the timeline. See you in 3 hours. Like,
No,
so funny.
I genuinely wasn't trying to play a game. I was like, I legitimately probably she was probably sitting right next to me when I got that text, and I probably asked her, and she was like, "Yeah, go make money,"
Yeah.
and like, and there we are. That's funny. I totally forgot about that.
I
Um,
thought about it the other day. I'm like, oh, it's like Mike's anniversary. I love that.
yeah, I think I had like planned to like third shoot with you or something at like Clark's Landing or something like that.
Yes.
And then after I second shot for you that day, you were like, "All right, we can like skip the third shoot. I think we can accelerate your onboarding."
Because I remember when I posted about needing more second shooters and you messaged me and I was literally like not the name I thought was going to pop up on my screen because you were working for Alex, you were working for Kelly, and like those are people like I really love, and at that time was really like heavily looking up to, and I was like, they're just like I just thought that they're. I mean, they still are amazing, but I thought that they were so great, and I'm like, you work for them, and you want to come second shoot for me? Like I just remember being like, are you sure? Like you responded back to the right story. And I remember being like, okay, sure, I'm sure you're great. And then we did the third shooting, whatever, and you second shot that wedding for me, and I just was like, okay, sold. Like, what do you want? Do you want my whole calendar? Like, just tell me what you want. And I'm
That's-
so glad though, because it really, like, our friendship has gotten so strong. Like, I'm so glad that you did message me that day because I don't know what I would do without you. So now I'm like, it's like the butterfly effect. What if you never sent me a DM that day? Then this wouldn't even be happening.
yeah, who knows? I don't know. But like, I don't know. It's so I appreciate that. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. But also, like when you first told me that, like, because we've talked about this before, my thought was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just some guy who like shoots weddings. And, my perception of you, like it was kind of like the same thing. Like you have a very, like, very well established business. You shoot a lot of weddings and you shoot at really great venues and your work is amazing. So, yeah, like why wouldn't I want to shoot for you? So, I don't know. Like it's just really interesting how like our perceptions
Right.
um of other people in the industry, and then like, and that's kind of like part of my goal with doing this is to like, just kind of like maybe break down those barriers a little bit and just see like,
Yeah.
oh hey, there's like
Yeah.
a human being behind what you see on Instagram. There's a human being behind what you see on the website. There's a human being behind like what you see on the stories. um so like, we're all like in this, we're all like human beings, like we all have families, loved ones, partners, whatever. And but like really like we just want to serve our clients the best that we can,
Of course. Of
that's like
course.
really at the end
Yeah.
of the day like what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what you said before, like, the faces behind the Instagram accounts, I feel like we do struggle. I feel like this community can be very competitive, and I feel like, we do struggle with, like, okay, I feel like I'm so friendly with a lot of people on Instagram that I've never met in real life, because obviously you're not going to meet another photographer when you're working a wedding. You're going to meet video and florists and hair and makeup, but you're never really meeting another photographer unless you're going out of your way to meet that photographer. And I remember like people that I would talk to on Instagram, or people that I really idolized, like, looked up to the way that they run their business or their style and all this stuff. I remember there would be times where I would run into them at like at an engagement session or a wedding expo or just anywhere. And I would be like, oh my God, I'm like so scared. I don't, like, I want to say something to them, but I'm like so scared because I feel like, I don't know, do they even know who I am? Like, I just remember being like, I, like your post and comment on your post and I love your Instagram, but it's like, like how you just never know how someone's actually going to react in person. So it's nice when you have things like this that, like you said, can like break barriers for people, because like putting up that front on social media is so different than like meeting somebody in real life.
Yeah.
I feel like I just worked with a hair and makeup artist this past weekend who I followed for so long, and I always heard amazing things about, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like nervous to actually meet her in person. I don't know why. I just was like, to me, she's like this big name, and I just was like, I'm working with her. Like, I feel so lucky. Like, it was kind of like one of those like crazy moments. And I remember saying to my bride, like, oh my God, I'm like fangirling right now. Like, I've heard nothing but amazing things about her, and I'm so nervous. But she was amazing. She's the nicest person I ever met. Like, it's just so, it's like social media is crazy.
It is crazy, and I'm guilty of the same thing. Like when I work with a vendor, um, who has like a big following, or who I know is like really successful in the industry. But like on the flip side, one of the things that's cool about freelancing is that like I do get to work with a lot of other photographers. So,
Right.
I do get to see how different people are like on a wedding day. Um, but and again, like part of wanting to do this is like, I've gotten to hang out with you outside of a wedding day, because like we
Right.
might have little pockets of time, downtime on a wedding to like chit chat about life, but for the most part, we're like in it, and we're like focused on the task, and we're focused on like doing what has to get done. So like the person that you see on the wedding day is not the same person,
Oh,
like
yeah.
when we go out for like a team dinner, or when we
Yeah.
like hang out for a barbecue around the pool, like
Hmm.
um and I got into this industry, I got into this job, obviously because of the flexibility and the other things that we talked about, but I got into this like for the people, and so,
Yes, I
and
agree.
that's kind of how I am with my clients too. Like, I don't know, right, wrong, or indifferent, like I have very bad boundaries. So like I want to know like about your life, and I want to know like what's, yeah.
It's so important. You have to have a personality, and you have to be like that. I'm the same way. I say it all the time. Like, I'm posting about it all the time. I'm talking about it all the time. Like, my goal is to be your friend, and I want to be your friend. Like, that's my goal. I want my team to be your friend. I like know right away who you're going to hit it off with. Like, I feel like it just, like when I was working for the wedding photography that I started working for, I would show up to a wedding day and it was like I was just the lady with the camera. Like I didn't know any of these clients. I never got to talk to them until a couple days before the wedding. I knew nothing about these people. Like it just felt so transactional to me, and that was not what I wanted like in my own business, and I knew that that was my goal from the first email till your album's delivered. Like I want to be your friend, and I want to be your friend after that. Like there's so many brides who are in my corner for every aspect of life, and I'm in theirs because that's just the way that you have to be. And I feel like, you're good. Like this is a really intimate experience. Like you're going through someone's entire wedding. Like that's something that you need to be close for. You need to get along with your vendors. And I feel like your personality is the same way. Like you just have to, break those barriers, let yourself in there. And I feel like a lot of couples, like I feel like after the engagement session, that's when it really like breaks for them, where they're like, okay, this is amazing. Like I'm so glad that we have this relationship, and then they keep it going from there. And it's so important.
Yeah. And, and not that there's anything wrong with like having it be a more, like a cleaner relationship, I guess, like having it be, having it be transactional. I mean, some people want that, and like
Mm-hmm.
that's totally
Right.
fine.
Right.
And I had a similar experience working for a studio where I would like show up and like really didn't know anything about the couple, like hadn't shot an
Mm-hmm.
engagement session with them, hadn't really been even on a call with them, and if it was like
Yes.
maybe a 5 minute call,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and not that I ever had any like bad experiences with that, but and in a weird way, and this is again just like my personality, like I always showed up to those situations being like, I'm gonna like still try to make this like the best day for them, and still like
Exactly.
have this like try to create that rapport like right off the bat, um so I don't know, that's just like always been the way that I've like approached it, and I'm glad that I have, because like some of
Mm-hmm.
my clients, like not that I book a ton of weddings for myself, but I've made some really amazing friends, and I have
Mm-hmm.
one girl from one of my brides from an October wedding who's now like shooting content for me, and like we talk on the regular because like she's starting to get
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
industry, and like that's I feel like turning into a really cool like friendship, and
I know. That's like Marissa. I mean, shout out to Marissa. I love you so much. She was one of my brides, and now she's one of our content creators. And it's like that's what I love. Like I love that. Like when she wanted to get into photography and start learning, I was the person that she came to, and that
Mhm.
just makes me happy. And same thing. Like she was somebody that I really connected with during her like just her time as a bride. And I was like, oh, I'm so sad that your wedding is over. Like I'm sad everyone's wedding is over, and it's like nice that there's stuff like this sometimes where it brings them back into your life, and now I talk to her every day, and it's awesome. So it's just like, yeah. And to go back to what you said, like there's nothing wrong with the transactional feeling. It's just that's just not me, and I just was like, I know that I can provide more, and my personality is very outgoing, very bubbly, and I feel like I definitely attract a lot of those brides that are very outgoing, very bubbly, and it's like always just so fun. Like that's really like the end game is for everything to just be fun and easy, and weddings suck. So
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun,
yeah.
and like that's really what it comes down to for me. Like, yeah, obviously there's certain situations that I don't even want to say are like not fun. They're just like a little stressful, and um,
100%.
like you start to feel like a little bit of a crunch, when like things are running behind, and like you can kind of sense that like you know maybe the couple is starting to get a little photoed out, but you still have like all these like family photos to
Yeah.
get. Um, so like those are the things that are, I don't know. I don't even want to say it's not fun. It's just like, all right, how are we going to manage this? And that's really
Yeah.
like with years of like repetition of like shooting weddings, in the past, like I would have been terrified of those situations. They would have been like traumatizing for me. Like I can have really bad anxiety, and
Yeah.
so kind of feeling like you start to feel like the weight of the day is on your shoulders, and that's like a
You do. You
really
definitely,
like
yeah.
crappy feeling.
You
Um,
do, and there's weddings that every wedding is so different. No matter how many times we could, be at the same venue, like every wedding is so different, and you really have to like adapt to anything. Like anything can happen, and you're just like, okay, well, basically falls on you to figure out. Like, especially if there's no wedding planner, you're just like, okay, it falls onto the photographer next, and you're just like, kind of have to have it in your head every scenario, like how to react and how to go
Mhm.
from there. And it's like, yeah, sometimes it's really chaotic. And I don't like when things don't go to plan. So it's like,
Well, something I've learned second shooting for you is like you have a flow.
yeah.
Like you have a very definite workflow, and there are some people that I shoot for where I'll like I'll be a little bit more I guess active, like a little bit more vocal in like
Mhm.
it's telling the couple like, oh, do this or do that, and like with you, like I just kind of like I feel like I'm a wallflower when I shoot for you, and I don't mind that. I think like there's like I have a lot of fun doing that. Like I can just kind of like work off of what you're doing and get the shots that I might ask you to like pause for a second, but um, it's and that's again like one of the things that's interesting for me is like shooting for so many different people is
Right, right.
um, you know thinking about how I can be creative based off of like what the lead shooter is doing, and
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I love shooting my own weddings, I love lead shooting, but like some days it's really fun to just second shoot and like be creative and like try something
Yeah.
wildly different, and if it works, awesome, and if it doesn't work, no big deal. Of course I'll have Krista over my shoulder being like, oh my god, Mike, you're so artistic. But like
So annoying. No, no, no. I agree. It's hard. I honestly I don't know if that's something that I could really like get on board with. I feel like it's tough and you have to adapt to every different person and every photographer is so different and it's like yeah, like what you like I remember one of the first times that you ever shot for me, you were so directive that was never used to that and I was like but it works and there's a reason why you do that and I remember being like okay, I talked to everybody else that was shooting for me at the time and I was like put yourself in there more like you don't have to just sit there and do not like not do nothing but like you don't have to just sit there during times where I'm shooting and like tell them to look at you get a different angle like do all of that like I feel like when I first like the first couple years of weddings I was really doing a lot by myself and I just was like used to really like not using the second shooter as often that I was like okay this just isn't making sense to me and then when you first started shooting for me I was like no this is what we need and you do that you say okay now look over here or hold on keep them there I want to get this type of shot like now everybody does that and just to be able to go off of each other and really like I just want you guys to really feel like we're shooting together and I feel like that's really all like we do feel like we all feel that way and so it's nice to hear that because I feel like it's just so I like giving second shooters and lead shooters I feel like I give them so much props because I could never really like learn to adapt to so many different photographers and that's so hard and everyone's so different it's crazy.
well, it's actually it's not super difficult because well, I'll say for me, like most of the people that I shoot for, there's like a lot of overlap in
Hmm.
terms of the things that they look for, and so it's really only remembering certain specific things. Like for you, I tend to shoot a lot wider because I know that's like one of your pet peeves is like you know when
Don't
things
crop
get cut off.
out. Do not crop out a foot, an
Do not.
elbow, a hair. Nothing.
Exactly. So I give you plenty of room on the sides to like do whatever cropping you want to do if you want to crop. But like I don't know if all it is just remembering like one or two things for each shooter, like it's really I'm good with that. Otherwise, I feel like again the people that I've gravitated towards have all brought me on their teams because they want me to use my eye, they want me to use my creativity, and
Yeah.
they trust what I'm going to deliver, and like that's to have the trust from the client is like huge, that's
Hmm.
amazing, but then to also have the trust of like other photographers is like also a really really big compliment. So I think and this is kind of like alluding to something else you said that I don't know if I touched on it before, but like you were saying something about, oh, it was like seeing other photographers and like kind of being starstruck, or like fangirling by them.
That sounds so silly, but it's so true.
And I do it too. I do it too. But like I can still have imposter syndrome. I can still
Yes.
have like this feeling of like they're all doing it right and I'm doing it wrong. You
Yes,
know?
I agree. Yep.
And I feel like for me that's been like the main hindrance. Not I don't want to say the main, but like one of the bigger hindrances for me in like wanting to start my own business and really like go balls to the wall as far as like booking my own stuff.
Hmm.
And this year with like my rebrand and doing this, I'm kind of like trying to push through that a little bit and just be like, you know what, I've been doing this for a long time
Yeah. Yeah.
and like I know what I'm doing. um and part of it too is like the time factor. I'm trying to strike that balance between how much front end and back end work do I really want to do versus having the freedom of like freelancing where like maybe there's a call or two leading up to the wedding, but it's really just showing up on the day of the wedding and like getting to do the fun part and then like delivering the
Yeah.
photo.
And I feel like I haven't second shot or lead shot for anyone honestly, and I would say maybe like 3 or 4 years. Like, and I feel like I can feel myself wanting to get back into that a little bit within the next couple years. Like, I feel like when you have kids, like that's something that can be nice, is to just kind of like have that escape a little bit, to just go shoot with one of your friends and really just feel like you're at work but you're hanging out at the same time. And I feel like that it's tough, and I get what you're saying, how like sometimes it's so nice to really like push your own, but then sometimes it's nice to just show up, shoot, and leave, and that gives you more freedom to do a lot of things. But I feel like it really depends on like what stage of life you're in. Like, your kids are older now and they're pulling you in every direction, and it's like, I know I'll be getting to that point pretty soon. So it's just like this industry is constantly evolving. Like, your art and your creativity is constantly evolving. So it kind of is like every couple years shifting it a little bit. I don't know. I feel like wherever it takes me, it takes me.
Yeah. So it's actually kind of a good segue into something else I wanted to talk about. So like what was the biggest um well, I'll just ask you this. How was the transition? And I already kind of know the answer to this question, but I want to hear you share it. Like how was the transition of going from, you know, just being without kids, shooting weddings, 50, 60 weddings a year, to then being pregnant and then having a newborn and a little crazy man running around.
Little crazy man. That's none that shouldn't even describe it. Um, it was something I really wasn't prepared for. Like, I thought I was more prepared than I was. I think I got prepared a lot earlier than I expected. I feel like for us it was really hard. I'm very open about it, so I don't mind like talking about it, but it was very tough for us to get pregnant. I knew that that was something that I was going to struggle with most of my life. So I feel like us going through infertility treatment really like already prepared me for everything, because I was going to weddings and taking infertility shots, and I was, doing all of the like having to schedule my work day around having to go get blood work at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, I feel like I was already doing things while like, simultaneously like focusing on work, that it really prepared me a lot earlier, because then once I was pregnant, I was already like juggling going to a million appointments and doing all of this stuff, and really having to put myself first, that I feel like I didn't start to struggle with it until he was actually here and I went back from maternity leave. It was a lot easier to edit with the newborn that just slept all day than it is now, who he's like ripping wires out of my computer and throwing things all over the place. Like, now this is the age where it's testing me. So it's really hard, and it's like, thankfully we're in a job where we can create our own schedule, and my husband's in a job where he can create his own schedule, and that really helps. We're constantly trying to like make sure we both have time to work, or we really lean on my family. Like they live down the street, and if it wasn't for them, like we would not survive. Being able to just bring the baby over and get some work done, or that he's with them on wedding days, like that's really like you have to lean on your support system, and that's something that I never did. Like I never was really open to with anybody. I never was like emotionally close to someone like until I met Tyler. And now having to lean on your family and lean on your support system is definitely something that I've learned. But juggling it with work is just kind of like some days it's 80-20, some days it's 50-50, some days I can focus all on Easton, some days I focus all on work. Like it's just kind of trying to find a balance that works for you. And I feel like really like this winter I really took time to like fine tune my editing workflow and my post production workflow because I wanted it to be easier on my mom life. I think last year I said this to you. I think I was on autopilot. Like I'm not even lying. Like I just was coasting through, and whatever happened happened. Whatever things looked like, they looked like. Like I just was on autopilot, and I was like, get me to December 29th. Like just get me there. Like, and it was tough. Like definitely a lot tougher than I ever thought. But we're working through it, and it's like a blessing because I get to be home with my son. I get to watch him, you know, grow, and I'm teaching him things, and I'm, you know, we're going through life, and he's learning something new every single day, and I also am learning new things every single day. And I honestly feel like there's a lot of things I learned in my mom life that I can apply in my work life, and it just kind of allows for more room for patience and like, you know, dealing with brides and dealing with wedding venues and planners and all this stuff. Like I feel like I'm a lot more patient than I ever thought I would be.
Mm.
But yeah, that's it on mom life.
Yeah. Well, I going back to that first wedding that we shot together where you texted me in the morning and I had to play hard to get.
100%.
No, I wasn't doing that, I swear. No, but I remember, that at that wedding, I remember we were in the Champagne Ballroom, and I remember sitting and we were eating dinner together, and I think that's where we were talking about the fertility stuff, and
Hmm.
you told me like what you guys have been going through, and I told you about how me and Kim had like gone through a lot of the same stuff, and so I think that was probably like one of the, not only obviously like us kind of working together for the first time and like having that bonding experience, but also like having that like shared experience of what it feels like to go through fertility treatments and all of the like craziness that
Yeah,
involves.
yeah,
Because
definitely.
I remember, obviously it's different for me, but I remember my wife having to like bring her little like freezer bag
Yeah.
of like shots
Yep.
to work or wherever she was going. I remember
Oh.
she told me the story. She went to a wedding one time, at a very, I won't say what, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not a bad thing, but, she was at a wedding and she asked the wedding venue if she could put her shot in their fridge,
Yes, that's
and
literally my life. Like that's my life.
right.
And it's crazy. Like you go back and going back to what you had just said, you just never know. Like this industry is so big, but everyone is going through something. And it's so nice when you find people that know what you're experiencing because at the time I didn't know anyone that was experiencing this. And like having talked to you just kind of made me feel like, okay, I know that I can go to you whenever I need to. And it definitely like opened up our friendship because that is something that is so I really, it leaves me speechless. Like the fact that this is even a thing is just so insane to me. But it's really something that's so intimate and emotional. And when you have people that are close to you that go through it too, or have been through it too, it helps you a lot. And I think being open about it is something I didn't think I was going to be. But I find that years leading up to this and going through everything I went through, I wouldn't have survived if it wasn't for having people who were open about it, people who gave me an outlet to go to when I had questions or I needed to vent or any of this stuff. So it's nice when posting about it on my work page and talking about it and having my brides come back to me, like, I love that. I want to be your person and your outlet to go through, or to go to when you're going through this, because it is something that it's more common than you think, and someone that you know is probably experiencing it. And it's like when you have people to talk to about it, it really makes like all the difference, because you feel so alone, and it's something that's so, like, you feel like you're failing, and you feel like your body's failing, and you can't do, you know, what you were made to do. And it's nice to be able to like get that outlet out. And it's like, that is a job in itself. Like, you are like running that job, and you're running your actual job, and it's like that's really what teaches you how to balance life and work. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we joked about it. I wasn't joking, like, kind of saying like, hey, I wasn't trying to make light of, um, how amazing women are, who are like pregnant and shooting, or like trying to get pregnant and shooting. Like, seriously, like and I will never experience that. And, um, all I can kind of do is just be like, supportive from like the sidelines, and, you know, again, like I kind of said from the outset, like these conversations will kind of go wherever they go, and I'm open to that. And, in situations like this, like, yeah, I can kind of share like my limited experience, but like, hopefully, someone will listen to this and be like, all right, cool, like,
Yeah, 100.
there is someone else out there who is going through it. And, you know, and it's like, when I talk about it, it's almost a little bit weird because, um, obviously, like, we went through fertility treatments for a long time, and then we kind of like took a break for a little bit because, it is just, it's a
Right.
lot. It's
It's a
so
lot.
emotionally, um it's just so much of like an emotional roller coaster. And at the time, I was also experiencing like really bad like anxiety, and I don't know, it was
Mhm.
just like a whole, it was a rough time for sure,
Yeah, it
for me
is.
and for her, for like so many different reasons.
Yeah.
um and I remember we were like getting ready to go back into doing another round, and, she came to me and she said that like she was pregnant, and, like we hadn't really been trying. And, um you know and it was amazing, and I was like, but
Right.
if anything, I was like so relieved that like we
That
like
it's
were
over.
all,
And yeah, I
yeah.
feel that. I feel like I'm very lucky. Like, we're very lucky to have the jobs that we have. Because I actually just said this to Tyler this week. I said, what do people do when like they have to be at work at 8 a.m. or if they work a 9 to 5? And like when you're going through IUI, IVF rounds, like every other day, you're in for monitoring between like 6:30 and 8:30 in the morning. Like, what are like how are they doing this? And just the added stress that it would have to like, be getting up at the crack of dawn, doing this, going through this emotional roller coaster the minute you wake up, and then having to go to work. Like, I said this literally this week. I said, how is, like, just props to like those people that are working the full-time jobs while going through infertility, because like we're working full-time jobs, but I work from home and I can make my schedule most of the time. And like, getting up and driving an hour isn't ideal, but it's what I have to do. And at the end of the day, I know that I can come home and I can just do what I need to do. And not everyone's, lucky enough to do that. And it's just so time consuming. But what you said about how you're relieved, like, oh my gosh, every second I live for when this part of my life is over. Like,
Mm.
when I can close that chapter of never having to touch a needle ever again, like never having to look at a cooler bag. Like, I can't wait for this part of my life to be over. But at the same time, like, you don't want to rush it. Like, I remember our last appointment, they monitored me for 8 weeks when I was pregnant with Easton. I went every week after I found out I was pregnant. And I remember my 8th week, and they like discharged me, was one of the saddest moments of my life.
Mm.
I bawled my eyes out. I was so upset because it's like these people made us a baby and we're leaving them. Like, I remember it was like one of the saddest days of my life. I was so upset. And then obviously, you want to have more, and you have others, and you go back, and it's like, a trauma block. Like you walk, like when we walked through those doors again, I just was like, oh my gosh. Like here we are, we're back again. We thought like all of this stuff would be over after we had Easton, and like we didn't expect to get hit with secondary infertility, and that just hits you. Like that was not an expectation. We thought like, okay, it was tough leading up to it, but Easton was our first IUI round. It worked. And then we were like, let's go. Like, we're ready. Little did we know. And then now it's like, whew, you're in it and you're in the thick of it. But if anyone listened to this and made it this far, I'm here for you. Please, like, that in another life, I'm going to come back as a fertility nurse because they are angels on this earth.
Yeah, I'm big on like trying to find the silver lining in things. And, when you're going through it, when you're in the middle of it, maybe is not the best time to like, just to try to find that silver lining, because sometimes things just suck and you don't have to like try to look for the positive in it. But I will say that Kim and I, as a result of going through that together, like our relationship and our communication and our bond became so much stronger. And, like if it came down to it and it didn't work, I knew that I was going to still be with my best friend for the rest of my life.
It's so important. Like
You
you
know?
really, oh my God, couples that go through infertility together are really like a different breed. Like in all honesty, like you got like, oh my gosh, you're going through so much. It's so hard on like if it's the female's issue when it comes to reproductive health, they're going through literal hell, and your partner is really going through more of like an emotional hell, I would say. Like they're watching you deal with this and they're watching you, deteriorate yourself, and it's really hard for both of you. And it's like if you don't lean on each other, you're not making it out, because it is so stressful, and it's stressful on both people. And it's like you're going through it together. Like what happens to me happens to Tyler. What happens to Tyler happens to me. And it's like if you don't have that, it's like I think about women who decide to have a baby on their own, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like props to you, because infertility is so hard. And I lean on Tyler, like I think more than I care to admit. And I feel like if I didn't have him, I really would not survive. Like I wouldn't have survived with Easton. I would not be surviving like this round. And I feel like this round, like I said this to you, is really hitting me a lot harder than the first time. So it's like you have to have that support system, or you can't go through this alone. Like you just can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Like getting back to that like silver lining, like again, me and Kim, it like really strengthened our relationship. And yeah, I don't know, like you said, the doctors and the professionals that were in like our corner, I don't know if I had like a similar experience as far as like feeling kind of like, sad or like emotional when we got pregnant as a result of like not being able to go see that team again. But like I just remember as we were going through that process, and experiencing like the ups and the downs, just like feeling like the perfect doctors were put in place at the right times, to like tell us what was happening, or doing what needed to be done. And like I'll be forever grateful for that time. And yeah, like it sucked for so many reasons,
Right.
but like I don't know, in some ways I truly do believe that like everything happens for a reason. And I truly do believe that like that experience makes me a better dad, makes
Yes,
me a better
absolutely.
husband.
I say that too. I think when you go through that, I think you become a parent long before you're even like you even have a baby. I feel like you're making decisions for your family and, your future kids long before like anyone really has to. I feel like it gives you a sense of how to be a better parent and how to, be a better couple for your kids, like by, experiencing what you're experiencing, which I think is the silver lining. Like, I think what you're going through absolutely sucks and it's horrible, and you just always think like, why me? Why is this happening to us? Like, whatever. But I think the outcome of making, the parent you are and the partner you are, I think is like one of the big silver linings of the whole thing, which is amazing in itself. Like, just being strong and being strong for your kids and strong for yourself. Like, that's definitely the move.
So I feel like there's no tactful way to segue out of this.
No,
So
we're happy. We're
I'm
happy.
I'm just gonna ask you, um, so like what's next for Jordyn Kasey photography? I mean, you already kind of alluded to it, but
I
and
know.
actually that reminds me, I did want to mention something before about what you said. So like you said that you're like really happy with like where the studio's at and like where things are at. And I wanted to say that I think it's really important, and there's something really special about like just giving yourself time to like take a step back and like
Mhm.
integrate everything that you've learned and like integrate everything that you've done and just be like, holy shit, look what I built.
Yeah.
This is great. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
I'm reaching that point. A lot of people, like, yeah, like this is like the point where I look back and I'm like, this is makes me so happy. Like, this is all I ever wanted, and it's a lot at times. Like, you're micromanaging every aspect, but it's so much worth it. And it's so cheesy, and everyone says this to you when you're first starting out and like in doing something that you always wanted to do. But honestly, like, if you love it, it's not even working, and it's just you're just doing what you love and, getting paid to do it. It's not even like, it's not something that I think of even like a job. Like, it's just really like my hobby that became my job. So naturally I love it. Like, it's just something that, and I think a lot of photographers are in the same boat. Like, a lot of times it started out as a hobby and it turned into something wild and crazy. But I don't know what's next. I really am happy where we are. I think, maybe we'll keep going down the road where I'm scaling back and, you guys are going up a little bit more. But I don't, I don't want to stop shooting. Like, that's just not where I'm at. Like, I want to be able to keep shooting, and, I really love like the local wedding venues and the ones that we go to a lot. So I feel like I just would be having major FOMO if I just like stopped shooting as much. So I don't want that. I know I'm definitely not going to be scaling back anytime soon, but I do. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I know that like this year is a big year for us. I'm very excited. Um, the new website and the branding and just all of that stuff was really important to me. And now it's just kind of like focusing on us as a whole and, going together and really doing everything together. And it's just like gotten to the point where it's just reached more people than I thought, and just more vendors and venues than I thought. And it's just, I'm content right here, right where we are. So we'll see where it goes, but I'm good. I'm good here.
You're good here. Sweet. I love that. I mean, I don't know. We might have a little side project talking about maybe doing some like infertility therapy
Oh,
podcast.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. It's like, oh my gosh, it's insane. Like, so many of my couples go experience it after the wedding and
Yeah.
come back to me, and I love that. So
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
No, but I mean, I, it's interesting you mentioned earlier in the podcast, like when we first started, about your like theater background and your like directing, um, you know, kind of that need that want to like direct, because you're not the first person that I've talked to that kind of like on the side or like in the back of their minds is thinking about like creative direction or like art
Hmm.
direction, like, as like a side hustle or like a side hobby.
Hmm.
And I feel like, as a photographer, especially a wedding photographer, you kind of have to have that muscle. You have to have that,
Right.
like, not only the creative muscle, but like the creative, like directing
Hmm.
muscle. Like you have to be able to articulate
Right.
what it is that you want.
Yeah, you have
And
to be direct or, like the mother of the bride is going to walk all over you. So it's like you have to like
right, so you have to be confident. But also I think like what's almost like 50% scary and 50% exciting is that um like you don't know what you're walking into on a wedding day, right?
Mhm.
So like, there are some times where you're familiar with, the prep location, like where everyone's getting ready. Maybe you're not familiar with it. And you don't know what you're walking into. You don't know what lighting scenario you're walking into. You don't know what's going to be
Right.
around the house. Like you don't know. Um, and those I feel like are like the sink or swim moments where you have to like create something
Mhm.
kind of out of thin air. And like again,
Yeah.
it's like half scary and half exciting where you're like, this is a blank slate, like a blank canvas. Um, what am I going to do here? So, and then like when you're shooting at venues that you've worked at before, like, obviously there are things that you like recreate with consistency, which are nice. But I also love that's one of the other reasons why I love shooting with other photographers is because I get to see the same venues from like
Yes.
different perspectives.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's really fun. Yeah. It's tough. A lot of people say to me all the time, they're like, how are you shooting at the same place 900 times a year? And I'm like, well, you just one, it's fun because you get to see the staff and you're close with everybody. And number two, you really just have to make every wedding different. Like every wedding's different anyway, so it's like what works on one wedding in that location might not work on another wedding. So you're really just kind of like adapting to the locations that that venue has to offer, and the different timelines, the different weather scenarios, like just kind of like utilizing, like there's sometimes where I'll go inside but on a normal day I won't go inside, or I'll go outside but on a normal day I won't go outside, like just kind of like adapting to that. So getting to see that while working for a lot of other people is something I feel like would be really cool, because then maybe something never sparked in your mind before to go shoot in that location, but somebody else turned it into something magical, and then you
Right.
just kind of stem from that.
Yeah. I have a bit of a love hate, and I think a lot of people do. I have a love hate with Instagram. But I also like, I'll go through periods where I'll just like mute everybody because not because I like don't like their work. I just, I'll start playing that comparison game
I
where I start being like, oh my God, everyone else's work is amazing and my work sucks.
Same.
Um, and, so I'll like go through periods where I mute everybody. And then like I'll go back every once in a while and I'll unmute, or I'll start following a new photographer and I'll see what they're doing at a venue that I shoot at regularly. And I'll be like, oh, that was really smart. Would have never thought to like shoot that venue that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think like this past year I've been super critical on what our Instagram looks like and what's coming next in the feed, and I know like that's so not popular right now. Like a lot of people are just like posting and they don't care about what their feed looks like, and I feel like that like grid vibe is so gone now, but I can't seem to get rid of that. So I'm like constantly stressed, and I'm like posting things and seeing what looks best on my grid, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like I can't do this anymore. Like I need to like get out of my own head, because I'll click on everybody and I'm like, oh, but their grid looks so good, or like their like lighting is just so perfect, and I'm just like, oh my god, I need to stop criticizing myself and comparing myself. And but you can't, like when you're like in an art driven business, like you're constantly thinking about how you can improve, and social media forces you to look at other people, so you're just kind of like comparing yourself to them. But I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. There's a lot of photographers I go on when I'm stuck in my head. Like I'll go and I'll look at
Mm,
them and I'm like, okay, like I need to switch things up a bit, or if I'm stuck and I'm like over the poses, or like um different like things I tell people to do, I'll go back and I'll look at like these certain photographers because they just to me always knock it out of the park, and I'm like, okay, this looks amazing. Let me try, try this or try that, or I hate being trendy, so I'm trying to like be a little bit trendy, and it's not, it's just not for me. Like I'm not trendy. I just but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm more open to it now than ever, so we'll see what happens.
That's so funny because, um, I see, and I feel like I keep harping on this in every episode, but the older I get, like the more I just see everyone as like younger and cooler than me. And I say this with all love, like you're the oldest young person that I've ever met.
I
And
literally said that you were going to try to out me today. Like I knew it. I'm like, Mike is going to out me today. Absolutely 100%.
no, you know what? I thought about it and I was like, I can't do that to her.
Oh
Your
my God, I
age
knew
will
it.
remain a mystery, but um, what I will say for someone who is younger than me, I feel like you're still pretty old.
I am so old. It's like disgusting. I'm like a grandma. I'm like I'm like not even able to relate to my bride sometimes, and I look at them and I'm just like, are we the same age? Or are we close in age? Because like you're making me feel like I'm like 60. So
I
or
mean,
even ugh,
well, let me ask you
just
this. So, like, what is your resistance to, not I don't want to say resistance, but like why do you like to keep things like so consistent and like not, steer as much into the trendy stuff?
I feel like because that's just me in my normal life. Like I still wear skinny jeans and I have a side part, and people will make fun of me for that. But like,
Listen, in fairness, I didn't even know skinny jeans were not in style until like 6 months ago.
well,
Like,
Lisa always likes to remind me that I cannot wear skinny jeans and I should have a middle part. So I feel like that's just not, I don't know, that's just not how I am in my own life. Like, I don't think
well,
your wedding should be trendy. I feel like it should be a representation of yourself. And I feel like
hmm,
Instagram and TikTok, like, I just think like it puts so much pressure on these trends where they're like, oh, so and so did that on TikTok and they got a million views. Like, I really like that. I think I should do that for my wedding too. And it's like, Pinterest is your worst enemy, and it's like everyone sees these like big Instagram social media weddings and they're like, oh my god, I want that, but that's not who you are. Why, like
hmm,
sometimes it's like, I think sometimes weddings get lost in the sauce a little bit about how it's not really like exactly what it's supposed to be. And for me, I feel like I just kind of thrived in like the more like timeless, romantic, classic vibe. And I'm trying to lean into being, trendy and doing more trends and like late night flat lay, like blurred images, like I'm trying to be that, but like at the same time I don't want to be something that I'm not because that's just not me. So it's like while sometimes it's fun, it's not something that's like normally in my workflow unless like someone requests it, but like you guys are all like that. And so it's nice having, you guys shoot for me and you're able to sometimes offer that, and we're dipping our toes in it a little bit, but I don't know, I just feel like it's just not who I am in my my own life. I'm definitely not trendy in my own life, so I don't really want to be like that in my work life. So I try to
hmm.
be like super transparent, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between doing something because it's trendy and then doing something because you genuinely like it and like the way it
Hmm.
looks.
Hmm.
And I think, um, and this this is my hot take for this episode, and then I'll shut it down. Like I can wrap my head around a lot of trends. I can wrap my head around like, the shutter drag, the motion
Hmm.
blur, the grain. Like I get it. I mean, some of it kind of annoys me because
Yeah.
for so long, those were things that we worked so hard not to
Yes.
do, right?
Yes. That is what I
And
can't get on board with. I'm like,
yeah,
2 years ago, if you had a horizontal line on your grid, you were like burned at the cross. Now, if you have a straight line on your grid, you're like burned at the cross. People want like crooked lines on the grid. So I'm like, it's
yeah.
constantly evolving. It's constantly evolving.
And I'll listen. This is my one hill that I'll die on. Straight horizons, okay?
Forever.
I need a straight horizon,
Yes, forever and ever.
especially if you're shooting at the beach. Look, listen. There's a time and a place for like a
Yeah.
candid moment where it's not straight. I get it. It's fine.
Mhm.
Um, but please, if you're like shooting the couple straight on with like a water horizon in the background, please straighten it.
Bro, it stresses me out. Like you want to, I want to print that in my house, and if it's crooked on my wall, I'm gonna like walk past it every day and want to like, like kill the photographer for making me love this photo, but the horizontal line is crooked, and now it's on my wall, and I have to look at it crooked every day. That's how I feel, but not everybody feels that way, and it's definitely a style thing. Like that's just not my style, but so many like of the fun, trendier photographers, like that's their style, and that's what looks good for them. So it's
Yeah.
like,
And this is not to throw shade at anybody else. This is really not to throw shade at like what you're doing. I just know for me
yeah.
and the way I look at things, and I don't know. And I kind of started as like a landscape photographer,
Mhm.
so that was like the first thing I did. Anytime I got a photo in Lightroom, straighten that horizon, please.
Yeah, no, I feel you 100%. I'm like, but like it's just constantly evolving. Like things that happened a couple years ago are now that we didn't like are now things that we like. And in a couple years from now, it'll be something that we like. Like maybe in a couple years from now, if someone posts a late night flat lay, they're going to be like, why the hell are you posting that? But right now, it's like everybody wants that. So it's just
Yes.
constantly evolving. And that's something that's cool about our industry and our job.
That's one thing I always like ask myself is like, all right, am I if I'm doing something trendy, like am I doing it because it's trendy, just because it's trendy? Or am I like doing it because I genuinely like the way that it looks?
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
agree. And I feel,
I've messed around with some things, and I've kind of like found a happy balance between like what's my style and like
mhm.
incorporating some of those trends. And yeah, there have been things, and I don't know, maybe it'll talk to me in a year, and I'll be like, all right, don't worry about straightening the horizon, but, but because I was kind of that way about the like blurry photos too, and then I
Yeah.
was like, you know what, I get it, like I can see
Like
it.
the motion and the
Yeah,
candidness of the movement, and yeah, I do get it. I just think that if you came back to me in a year, like my horizon lines are still going to be straight. So that's just where we differ.
yeah. The difference is like you have integrity, and I don't.
And if I'm doing something that's trendy, I'm doing it because it's trendy, and I really don't want to be doing it. I'm doing it because someone asked me to do it, and I fulfill their Pinterest dreams. And is that is good. That's where we end.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's a good place to stop. Um, Jordyn, thank you so much for doing this. I had such a good time. I learned some things. I laughed. I cried. Um,
Thank you so much. No, this has been awesome. I'm so proud of you. I hope this continues to grow, and I know you love doing it, and I love watching you do it, and it's amazing. So thank you so much. And yeah, anytime you want me, I'm here. I'm
all
ready.
right, sweet. We'll have to have a Jordan Casey returns episode.
Duh.
All right, Jordyn.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.